Welcome to the JA Economics for Success program, Paying for My Wants and Needs lesson. Today, you're going to need your volunteer guidebook, the student worksheets, and if it's your first lesson, you'll need the table tents, or you should have collected them at the end of your first session, and you can hand them back out for this lesson. Today is all about teaching the students credit versus debit. We're going to go into depth and talk about the different, what the difference is between them and the different payment methods and what category they fall under. The first thing you're going to want to do is ask a few questions to kind of get students thinking and to figure out what they know, maybe what they've learned about this topic from their parents or other adults in their life. Then you're going to want to define debit and credit. These are official vocab words, so you are going to want the students to write down the definitions on their student worksheets. Then you're going to talk a little bit about the difference. So debit is using your own money when credit means borrowing from the bank. We really want to get this point across, that debit means it's your own money, it's coming out of your account right away, and credit means it's someone else's money and you have to pay it back. The first game you're going to play is a drag and drop game. You can see at the bottom there are a bunch of different payment methods, and we have to figure out which payment methods. Is it a debit or is it a credit? So what I would do is I would have students come to the board, maybe start left to right and have a student come up and say, okay, debit card's our first one. Do you think it is a debit or a credit? Then they can actually click the Smartboard or Promethean board and drag it to whichever one they think is right. Then I'd have another student come for check. Do you think it's a debit or a credit? Then if it's wrong, it would be placed back down. So it's not going to stick if it's wrong, and it will stick if it's right. So just know that you can't get wrong answers. Then you can hit submit. Then we're going to go in depth and really talk about all the different payment methods that we just talked about. What I do is I start at the top and I would click on cash. In the middle is going to be the definition of what cash is, and you are going to want to see if it is a vocab word that's on your student worksheets, because if it is, you're going to want the students to fill that out. Then we're going to talk about all the pros and all the cons of using paper money, because we know that every payment method has pros and cons. When we've talked about cash, I'm going to go to the check and just click on it. Again, in the middle will be the definition. Then it's going to have some pros pop up and some cons pop up. We're going to do the same with gift card and debit card. Then we're going to talk a little bit about debit payment methods. Then we're going to do the exact same thing, a deep dive into credit payment methods. Click on the digital wallet. Again, the definition pops in the middle. Then we're going to talk about all the pros and all the cons about using a digital wallet. We're going to do the same with payment app, loan, and credit card. Then we're going to talk about some credit payment methods. Then we are going to play the How Do You Pay game. Now, there are 15 questions, and once you start, it's a little hard to stop the activity, so we want to make sure that you leave time for all 15 questions. What you're going to do is, again, I would have students come to the board, and I would ask a question. Which payment method would you probably use to buy a car or house? Select one. I would have a student come to the board and click on whichever one they think. We know it's probably a loan. And then we would hit submit. If you don't have time for the game, you can skip the game. I'm going to play it for a little bit today. We're going to hit submit, and we know it's correct. It will tell you if it's wrong. Then you'll advance question 2, and you'll see over here our little plant of money will grow as we get questions right. Now that we're on to question 2, our skip game has disappeared. So again, please make sure you leave time to play the game. Question 2 is, which payment method offers rewards? Select 3. Make sure your students are reading. Are they supposed to be clicking 1 or 3? Which one offers rewards? These 3. I think I have it right. We're going to hit submit and continue. I'm not going to play the whole game today, but I do just want to reiterate, please make sure you leave time to do that. In the middle of the activity, we always have a fun fact and just a time for the students to kind of relax, get up and stretch. So make sure you give them time to get up and stretch and really get that blood flowing again. Then we're going to go into our next activity where we are going to look at a few people's decision to spend their money. And we're going to talk about if it was a good decision or a bad decision. So first up is Ivy. And Ivy got a $25 prepaid debit card for her birthday. She really wants to use it to buy snacks. However, she downloads a virtual pet app and starts to buy her pet's water bowls and collars and treats. So when she goes to buy her snacks, she doesn't have any money left. Did she make a smart decision with her debit card? This is a conversation that you can have with the students and really talk to them about. The next thing we're going to talk about is overdraft fees. So again, it's a vocab word. We are going to want to make sure that the students write this down on their worksheet. The big thing also is hidden costs, right? We know that interest is huge. And it's maybe something that these students haven't ever thought about or maybe don't know what it is. So it is a vocab word, so we are going to want them to write it down, but really talk to them about what is interest? What does it mean if something has interest on it? The next thing we're going to do is talk about Tyrell's spending decisions. Now, all of Tyrell's decisions do have a little math involved. So if your students are struggling, again, the point of this activity is not to decide if they can do math or not. It is to talk about budgeting, credit versus debit, smart decisions with your money. So please help the students with their answers. And if you run out of time, you can just talk to the students about it and click the answer. So he wants to spend $1,000 on new furniture, and the furniture company says, yep, you can have it for 1 year with no interest, but if you don't pay it off, it's 20% interest. Tyrell does not pay it off, so he now has 20% interest on top of his $1,000. So he paid $1,000, he's got 20% interest, so now he owes another $200. So he could have saved that by budgeting better and saving and spending his money more wisely and then paying off the couch or furniture within a year. The second one talks about how much interest is added up each month if he doesn't pay it off. Again, so we had the $200 interest. If he doesn't pay it off in 12 months, we would divide it by 12, so it's $1,670 a month. Then we talk about how there are also credit card fees if he's late to pay. So we got the furniture, we've got a late fee, we've got the interest fee. So actually he spent a little over $1,200 on a $1,000 piece of furniture. So we want to talk about how if you're going to spend money on something, that's fine, but we want to make sure we're paying it off in a good amount of time so we're not getting late fees and interest fees. You're just going to talk kind of holistically about if Tyrell made good decisions. This is a big point, and I really want to make sure that you have time for this one slide because I think this is one of the most important slides in the whole lesson. It says paying with credit card will cost more in interest and fees unless the bill is paid in full each month. This is a big thing that a lot of these students might not have credit cards yet, but when they get a credit card, it really needs to be reminded to students that if you want to buy something big, that's fine, but then you have to pay it off in full. Paying the maybe $20 minimum might sound nice, but then you're going to have a lot of interest on top of that, and you're actually going to be paying more over time. So it's really important if you get a credit card, if you can start by spending little amounts and having that money in the bank so you can pay off your bill in full each month. You can build your credit that way, which we'll talk about in later examples. And it really makes it better because they know responsibility of, okay, I might be borrowing this money from a bank via my credit card. However, I still need to have the money to pay it off in a month. Then you're going to wrap up and just talk about what you learned in this lesson. What's the difference between debit and credit? What are some payment methods? Did Ivy and Tyrell make good decisions? Really just wrapping up the lesson. Then if you have time, you can reflect on what you talked about a little more. Thanks so much for teaching, and we hope you enjoy this lesson.